What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked In, your source for everything basketball. My name is Nick DeFeo, alongside my co-host, Jason Shea. We dive into all things hoops, from recruiting tips and training advice to hot takes and the latest news. Whether you're a player, coach, parent, or fan, we've got you covered. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more great content every week. Time to get locked in. We appreciate you guys listening. YouTube channel just got over 150 subscribers, so growing pretty quickly. We're excited about that. Coach, we have a great guest today, Mustapha Heron, originally from Waterbury, Connecticut, and has traveled the world at this point playing professional basketball. The episode will dive through Mustapha's roadmap, essentially, from when he was a youth basketball player up and through his college days, high school college days, and then we'll go into his professional career, which is he's currently in right now. So we're excited to have a good conversation with Staff today. Staff, we appreciate you having you on, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, first of all.
Of course, man. Of course. So I'm going to kick this off. I just want to start by asking you about this video that I found today of you in 8th grade guarding Chris Paul. Is this a real thing?
Yes, that was like my introduction to like the world, basically. That was I think it was like number 3 or 4 on ESPN Top 10 the next morning. Like all my friends, when I went back to school, they were telling me about it. But yeah, that was like my introduction to people like knowing who I was, type of thing.
So I Googled you today just because I want to be prepared for tonight. It was like the first things that came up, and I've never seen it before. It has 2 million views. You know that?
Kind of like I guess I was like a viral sensation, kind of young. I never realized it.
2 million views guarding Chris Paul. Yeah. He drops a bucket on you. It's all right.
Grown man shoulder at the end.
Yeah,
just
of course.
Lulling me to sleep type of
The guy
thing.
in the video was like, "Damn, easy."
Yeah.
But we could start there. I mean, that was 8th grade for you.
8th grade, yep.
8th grade for you, and at that point, where were you in your basketball career when you were in 8th grade?
That was actually my reclass year. I reclassed to middle school because I would have been really young going into high school. So I ended up I left Betsy Ross Arts Magnet School after I graduated 8th grade the first time. Went to St. Joe's Catholic School in Meriden, Connecticut. And I was just kind of just on my path of trying to just get better. I was getting invited to different camps, different things like that. So I was just kind of getting on the scene, I guess.
Sure. And 8th grade, and that was a 5-star camp, if I read the shirts correctly. So worked the 5-star camps, good stuff there. Did you do that often in middle school? Go to certain camps and kind of make a name for yourself that way?
Yep, 5-star, hoop group, all those different types of things. I wasn't like on the Nike, elite camps yet. I wasn't yet there. I was kind of like one of those, I guess, fringe guys, like kind of getting the ranking, people not knowing me yet. But like once I got to freshman year is when I kind of started getting all those invites to those top camps and everything. But I started out with the 5-stars, the hoop groups, those local Northeast region camps, and just trying to make a name for myself in this region and then expand outwards.
And as you started to make your name for yourself, did you have that established as you were in 8th grade, or was it earlier than that? Like when you started becoming, a really good player, whether it's in Connecticut or in the Northeast region, was it around that time, or was it even earlier than that?
A little bit earlier, I would say, but around that time is when I think people kind of saw like, okay, this kid might have a future doing this. But I think early, maybe like 12 years old. 12U Nationals was the first Nationals I went to in Hampton, Virginia. So that was like my first time being like kind of out there. It was D2 Nationals, so it wasn't quite, where you're playing against the guys in my class, like, the Jason Tatum, 7th Woods, guys like that were really popular at that time. But I would say about 12 years old is when I kind of started making that adjustment.
And who'd you play for when you guys went down to 12U Nationals? What team were you playing for?
I was playing with Stanford Peace.
Okay.
Stanford Peace.
Nice. Awesome. And so, you kind of build your name for yourself down there in Virginia. You come back and you kind of have this name, and then you're going to the 5-stars, the hoop groups, and you're starting to become this, I guess a figure in the basketball world, in your class specifically, in the Northeast. And then let's talk about the transition from 8th grade to 9th grade. And 9th grade was Wilbraham Munson.
Yep, Wilbraham Munson. Yeah.
Wilbraham Munson. I worked at Wilbraham Munson.
Really? When
I was coach of volleyball.
Okay.
When you were there. Good luck, Okanobo. Right?
You were there when I was there.
Max Holtzel. You remember?
Yeah.
So quick story. I went to Western New England right down the road, and I played basketball there. I was doing an internship, and one of my professors linked me with the volleyball coach at Wilbraham Munson.
Okay.
And they had the boys program in the spring. So when my season was done, when the boys basketball season was done at Wilbraham Munson, I came over to coach the boys. And we had all those guys playing.
Cancer, good luck. I was like the only one that didn't play volleyball.
Because you guys had to play a sport in the spring or all year long.
Or you had to play at least 2 sports, and then you could get an exemption for one of them. So what I did was I played fourth soccer, like the worst level
team,
of soccer. I played that in the fall, and then I got my exemption for AAU in the spring.
I love it. Yeah, that's right.
I was terrible.
Yeah, we used to have games on Fridays, and the whole team was gone because they were all traveling for AAU. Yeah, good luck and all. Cameron can driving for all those guys. Yeah, that was good. So let's talk about freshman year. So you were gonna stop me. What happened freshman year for you?
I actually started at Capital Prep, and it was we were trying to build something, one of those powerhouse type of state championship type teams. We had Khalil Dukes was on his way out, Levi Gillespie was still there. We were building something, but I didn't want to go to school 10 months out the year. It's a charter school. Shirt and tie, blazer, 10 months out the year. Wilbraham and Munson, obviously, prep school, same thing, dressing up, but 10 months, it wasn't for me.
Wasn't it?
It wasn't for me, so I transferred.
I don't blame you. So you transferred out, when was that? Was that early on, in the fall?
Yep, late September, early October.
And then you shot right up to Wilbraham Munson?
Yep.
And what brought you there?
Chris Sparks,
yeah.
Yep. And then just knowing the team that they were building.
Yeah, and it was quite the team. Quite the team. And so let's talk about your freshman year at Wilbraham Munson. What was that experience for you? How was the basketball team? And at that point, you had a good name for yourself. How was your freshman year essentially in terms of your basketball season?
I learned a lot. I would say it was like the first time, besides the AAU, it was probably the summer before that was my first summer playing 17 and under. So being a young guy, playing against older guys, even in 17 and under, sometimes you got guys 18, 19, and then obviously when you go to prep school, you got your PGs. They're 20 years old sometimes, on the older side of 19. So it was just, it was a learning experience, struggled for, the first 5-6 games, just the physicality. And I was somebody who was considered to be like a physical, guard as a 14, 15-year-old, but still it was a different level. So a lot of it freshman year was learning. I had my, points of the season where, you saw like, oh, that kid can be pretty good by sophomore, junior year type of thing. But it was just a learning experience for sure. And it was a great one. I was around we had like maybe 3 or 4 pros off of that team. Everybody's going to college, whether it be high-level Division I, high-level Division II, yeah, for sure.
Mustapha, talk to me about who's guiding you through all these decisions. I think for a lot of parents out there, it's hard to know where to start. There's a lot of coaches in AAU talking about traveling, going to nationals, doing all these things, and some are real, and then some are not as real in terms of exposure and getting going to that next level or getting seen or getting ranked. There's so many rankings that I don't think matter. But who's guiding? Because it seems like you're on the right path here. Who's your primary guide? Are there a few? Or is it a coach? Family? Talk about who's taking you through all this.
I think everybody had. Well, first and foremost is my dad. He was the one that started this whole thing. It was him and I from 2 years old all the way on up until graduating high school, going to college, and all that type of stuff. But I think everybody that was in my life, from my travel coaches. I used to play travel ball in West Haven because my mom lived down there. All different, I played for, I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but the FAM Club in New Haven, they were really big when I was young, played for them, the Stanford Peace. I think everybody had a role in kind of shaping me, but it was my dad for sure. He was the one that was guiding me, recruitment and all that type of things.
Yeah, and so you decide, talk about how you ended up at Sacred Heart, because that's obviously where I know you from. It's early on in my career. Yeah. What year did you graduate Sacred Heart?
2016.
Yeah, so those are early years. I know you, and from West Haven, if I were coaching at Notre Dame, you weren't leaving back then. But so you go to Sacred Heart. Why? How does that take place? And talk about that experience a little bit.
So kind of midway through sophomore year, it was just one of those things. I'm living away from home, kind of getting homesick, just being young.
Because you're young.
Yeah, I was 15 at the time.
You're
just
15 years old.
Yeah.
You're already living away from home. That's tough.
Yep. So that was pretty much the gist of it. Was just I was going home every weekend, things like that. So it was just kind of ready to get back home. I don't think I was ready yet to. And it's funny, I was also being recruited to go to Montverde by Kevin Boyle as a freshman, and taking visits down there. He was coaching at the Pocono camp. He had like a hoop group camp, but he was running it in the Poconos, and he brought me up there to kind of see me, things like that. But I just wasn't ready to be away from home yet, away from the development, things like that. So.
I mean, if you're 14 or 15 years old, and you do go away to a prep school, like you said, you're living with guys who are older side of 19, 20 years old. You know, I was in college at 17, which was too young. And I go to college 17 years old. I don't think I'm ready for college. You know, just getting accustomed. You know, all of a sudden there's a big social life aspect of things, and there's all. I could not imagine being away at 14 or 15. So it's really weird because you're at this. You know, you're hanging around with guys who are just so much older than you and along the line socially further than you. How did you manage that? Was that one of the biggest challenges?
I don't think it was a challenge per se, because the summer before that in AAU I was playing 17 and under, so I was kind of used to a little bit, you know, being in hotel rooms with older guys, all different things like that, just traveling with them. So it wasn't too crazy.
Okay. But you're back at Sacred Heart, so talk about that experience. Are you happy to be home?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Super happy to be home. And then I kind of knew when I was transferring, it was kind of like a quiet, kept secret, I guess. I knew I was going to Sacred Heart, but a lot of people were, you know, Holy Cross, everybody was trying to get me to go to their school, but I had known that all my friends that I played on Sacred Heart with, Tyron Flowers, Malik Petaway, Isaiah Rasco, Charles Fisher, we all played like travel ball together for the fam club, so we'd known each other since we were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and just kind of came up that way. And so I knew if I go back there, it's going to be like old times. We were one of those travel teams like around the state that we would just punish people. So I knew we're going to punish the whole state.
Yeah, and you guys did.
And you did for 3 straight years.
Yes, you did.
3 straight state championship titles. Connecticut Player of the Year in 2015 and 2016. You know, talk about your experience there at Sacred Heart, and I have a funny story for you about when you were at Sacred Heart and you guys played us in the PJN Classic in Springfield. But yeah, that was a tough night. Yeah, that was a tough night. But
that was outside the state, so we didn't torture you guys.
Yeah, no. You're right.
Nick just wanted to give you some humble pie for the podcast.
Yeah, I just got to plug Springfield Commonwealth for a second. But let's talk about high school. You come back to Sacred Heart. You know, you're an established player. You played a year of prep school. So, as you know, and the 3 of us know, the prep game is almost pretty much college basketball, or as close as you can get to it. You come back to Sacred Heart, and you got to be feeling confident. You know, so whether it's that sophomore year specifically, but talk about that development for you over those next 3 years. You guys had a great team, but what did you do specifically, either individual or collectively as a whole, to get better and develop your skill?
So my mentality was, especially like leaving the NEPSAC, you always hear people saying, you know, the NEPSAC is the best high school conference in the country. It's this, it's that, you know, you guys, there's a lot of high major guys leaving there and pros leaving there. So when I left the NEPSAC, in my mind, it was just like, okay, I had a pretty solid freshman year. Now, not to, you know, disrespect any of the schools that are in the NVO that we're playing against, but I'm like, these schools aren't Tillian, these schools aren't New Hampton, these schools are not, and it's just a different level. So I'm gonna show everybody that it's a different level, and that was pretty much my mentality as far as working out, you know, just the way I trained. And then also it was like, I knew that coming from Wilbraham and Munson, you know, top prep school, going to Sacred Heart, nobody knows who Sacred Heart is. So it's gonna be where we have to kind of build a name for ourselves. So that was also another thing. And it's like, I'm also trying to stay in the rankings, keep my name alive. So I have to, however we can try to, you know, just create that buzz, we got to create it. So that was
and that's a great point that you just said. Like, you're a top 50 player in the country at that point, maybe even a little bit higher, top 25 player in the country. Like, there's no time to waste here. Yeah. You got to put your foot on the gas pedal, and I need to work. You know, and coming out of the NEPSAC, where it might be considered some of the best basketball, like you're now in the State of Connecticut Association, and you have to prove that you are that top 25 player and more.
Yeah, exactly.
So that mentality, and I've obviously watched you work out recently, and it's impressive. But you know, when you were in high school, like, just have that mentality. Could you speak on that for players who are interested in, you know, keeping that mentality, whether it's in a workout or throughout an entire season? Like, what was that drive like, and what motivated you?
You gotta have a love for it. first and foremost, if you don't have a love for it, it's nothing that you can do to, the extra motivation. And I think that's where I know that's where the extra motivation comes from. It's just the love and the passion for the game. And that was built from, being 2 years old, just watching my dad. My dad played overseas for about 3.5 years, I think. So just thinking in my head, I want to be like him. I want to be like my dad. And that was where, just the motivating factor.
Talk a little bit about, you mentioned the levels. Obviously, I coach in the CIEC, and our team has done really well, and we have some, really high-level kids, similar to yourself when you were going through, and the team's very similar to your team. And I think one of the positives when you came back, maybe, talk about playing for state championships, the excitement of that. You had a lot of games that were blowouts. You had a state championship game that was a 50-point blowout, by the way. But I remember that. I was like, damn.
Senior year.
Like, these guys are killing everybody, even at Mohegan. It was at Mohegan, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But talk about, but it's still a different experience, right? So you're still playing AAU. You're at the top, I'm sure, at the top levels, top circuit. We'll talk about that in a second. But you're now getting an opportunity to play for your state championship. There's a lot of notoriety. You guys were in the paper, on the news all the time. That had to be a lot of fun.
For sure. And I think in the back of my mind, definitely especially sophomore year coming from prep school, it was like people didn't see. There was always like that little buzz, like, well, he left the state to go, even though it's to, try to do greater things. It was like, oh, he left the state. He don't want to, put on for a state type of thing. So that was my mentality, is like, I want to be the guy that everybody looks at in the papers. It's like, okay, that's the guy in the state right there. So,
yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, a player like yourself, I don't care where you play. If you're good enough, you can get to that level.
They'll find you.
That doesn't mean that if there's not a place for prep school to up your level, you need to get better. You need to. There's all those things. Everything's legitimate.
Yep.
But that a guy like you playing in the CIEC, you're going to be found, and you're going to have that spring opportunity, which we could talk about next. The spring opportunity where you're going to play against the best of the best on a weekend out basis. So you were fun to watch, man.
Thank you. Appreciate
I watched you play, and I was like, "Jeez, how are we going to get to that level?" And I do remember that distinctly in my mind. Like, that was like really the standard where we all were trying to get to. Talk about your AAU experience now through high school. So, talk about your coaches. Give some advice to kids especially kids at your level. Who should they be listening to? Where do you think they should be playing? At what point should they really make sure they're in the right situation? Like, if they're going to ninth grade and they're not on a circuit team, is it too late?
No, I wouldn't say it's too late. Just you have to go out, try to talk to people. It's crazy. I wouldn't really know that part of the question, how to answer, because for me it was like people were always trying to find me. Like, I never felt like I had to go out and look for teams, but I think that just came from the work. Like, whenever people saw me in whatever local levels, local tournaments, because I started off playing for Stanford Peace on the AAU circuit. And then I got to Gauchos next we played against them in the tournament. It was pool play. We're the worst team in the pool. They're the best team that's supposed to go on and win the tournament. Whatever numbers I put up on them, coaches coming to me after the game, I need you on my team next tournament. So it was more one of those things, people were just looking for me type of thing. That question is kind of hard.
It's not relatable, Nick, for you. And
I don't mean to say it like that, but it was. But as far as
there is that reality, right? Yeah. I mean, and part of that is also a good lesson for parents. I think if you're chasing this thing too hard, it might not be there.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. You got to find like the level that makes sense for you. And
it's a level for everybody.
to play in the EYBL, if you're playing the EYBL, you have an opportunity to be a Division I player. And if you don't play, it doesn't mean you're not going to go any sneaker circuit. Exactly. You still can, but your level might also be on track to play the Division III level, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing
but
at all.
If you're good enough, even for AAU, the moral of the story is they're still going to find you because everybody knows.
Exactly.
And in the AAU world, it's almost more so than the high school world. How many people talk? It's like a huge gossip column out there.
Now, especially with the
AAU.
social media now, it's even more than when I was in high school. Like, you can find kids anywhere.
You're not going to get lost.
No, keep your head down to work. Eventually, you'll play against that kid that has a name, and then when the opportunity comes, just be ready. That's it.
Yep.
That's all I can say.
It's also a sign for parents, like, hey, if your kid didn't play well enough where the other coach comes up and asks you, I need you to play on my team, then
You got to get
Maybe
better.
it's time to stop chasing that dream. You know
Or
what
just
I mean?
get better.
Or just get
Just
better.
get
Oh, I
better.
hear that. Just get better. That's it. So we go to Gauchos. How long were you with Gauchos, and what was that experience like? And then where did you really finish your high school career, AAU career?
Yeah.
With what teams and what exposure?
So I started Gauchos literally like the next weekend. They brought me to like a makeshift. It was a team practice, but it was my tryout. So I'm the only new kid in there. Actually, it was Tremont Waters and myself. We actually went down together to go try out. And
Notre Dame West Haven for 1 year.
Yep.
Last year, yeah.
Yep. And Tremont and I played 8 and under sidebar, 8 and under together. So we were very familiar with each other. But I started with Gauchos 12U, then 14U is when I stopped playing for them and moved on to New Heights. But I was playing at that point. Once I got to 14U, I was strictly 17 and under. So every team I played for after that, I played New England Players, New Heights, New Wrens. I moonlighted with Lightning. Like I played with everybody. Like if you ask anybody that coached AAU, I played with everybody. Everybody wanted me to play with them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a good feeling when
No,
people
it's
are asking
great.
for you like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and you're
People want you to play.
traveling all over the place,
For sure.
which is a lot of fun.
Played the EYBL with Expressions, one session with them. Like I was everywhere.
As a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old, and you're playing for all these AAU teams, and all these teams want you to play. What is your exhaustion level like? Some of these guys go through all the traveling now on the weekends, and like, where does your time management fit into that? Like your schoolwork, and just speak on what that was like for you. Was it a whirlwind? Did you have your feet underneath you, or did you have to kind of learn?
I was one of those kids that was gym, school, home. So there wasn't a lot of room for not getting things done. I was always getting things done. Like I even had my younger brother and I, we had to keep a basketball journal when we were young. So schoolwork is definitely everything was getting done. Like it was very regiment based.
Sure. And then when you guys traveled on the weekends, I'm sure you missed some school here and there for AU tournaments like a lot of kids do now, like Fridays especially. Kids will leave on Thursdays or Friday morning. Was that the same for you? And then, did that impact your either schoolwork or skill development time, or was it just right in the flow of things?
I was pretty much right in the flow of things. I stayed after school a lot, and because I knew that these things were going to come, so I get extra work. I try to do extra credit when I knew that I was going to miss certain times and things like that. So I always try to stay on top of that with my teachers, and that's one thing teachers will respect. And they, at least from what I've seen, as long as you make the effort, because teachers understand, certain things go on in certain people's lives. So as long as you make the effort, they'll help you. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's so demanding. I feel like your generation was probably the first generation that had that kind of demand on them in terms of the sneaker circuits in AAU.
Yeah.
You look at players now, and it's travel for the AAU, whether it's 5 or 6 sessions on the EYBL or whatever circuit you're playing on. Then if you're doing well, that's great. But now you're invited to Nike camps. You're invited to top 100, top 50, top 24. Anybody who could think of a number to put to it where they can do an invite and a showcase in outdoor situations. I see that now with some of my guys. It's really hard for them to just settle in and kind of get back in the gym and make sure that they're improving. But it's a lot of fun. So for you and your experience, would you say it was, worth all that time playing, or did you sometimes get worn out and just say, man, I could use a break?
When I was young, no, I honestly didn't feel my first I'm tired until this year. 26 years old now. I played in this year alone, I played in Uruguay, New Zealand, and I just came back from Mexico about 3 weeks ago. So this was the first time, and I didn't touch a basketball. It's the first time in my whole life I didn't touch a basketball for over 2 weeks. It was about 2.5, 3 weeks, and I felt like I was itching. When I was young, there was no time off.
Didn't even bother.
I didn't want to.
You just had so much fun. Like, this is fun. This is like a great adventure for a kid.
And I was hungry. I was chasing dudes. Like I'm looking at. I was one of those kids that 10, 11 years old. I was watching the John Wall mixtapes, all the hoop mixtape, the Ball is Life. So it was like, I need to be there. Like I was I was obsessed with it. Like literally. So that was how I went about it. I didn't want to break.
And I'm glad we didn't play against it.
It's no joke.
And my dad was like a drill sergeant, so it's like, and it's funny because now when I do my fair share of training kids, I train kids kind of the same way that my dad trained me, and it was just it was a lot. Everything was discipline based, so yeah, I didn't want breaks.
And is that where the love and the obsession came from? You know, you think it was home, you think it was dad, you think it was, obviously he played overseas and that helps, but you think it was he had a basketball in your hands early and just drilling you, and then it's just part of your life?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's exactly what it is. Literally, just first off, wanting to be like dad, and then that's the time that we're spending together. It's a lot of basketball, and it's like, man, this is what I want to do. Like,
and it's kind of a personal question, but it's kind of not. Like, describe that feeling of the obsession, because kids like, oh, I love it. You know, I love basketball. Like, oh, I love being in the gym. Like, but you're somebody who has proven that the love of the game has really taken it to the next level. What are those feelings like? What is it? You know, is it I can't not be in the gym right now, or I can't not be working on something basketball wise or my body to try to get that edge? What does the love feel like? What does the obsession feel like?
one perfect example: when I was young and I didn't make McDonald's, I cried I bawled my eyes out and I don't think kids cry over basketball anymore. Like, I feel like if you don't achieve something that, especially that you know you've worked for, and enough people can see that you're working for, and they tell you like, hey, it just didn't happen for you. Like, but yeah, I think that was one of the things. Like, that was like crying over not making McDonald's. Like, really taking that to heart. And then 2 weeks later is Ball is Life All-American game. And I'm probably one of 2 or 3 guys that didn't make McDonald's. I need to go win MVP. I think that's an example of the obsession. Like, I need to go win MVP of this.
Yeah, not just get into the game.
No,
like, I'm going to get in the game. I'm going to kill everybody.
I need to kill everybody. I've made McDonald's. I need to.
I love that.
That's fantastic.
I'm fired up.
Yeah, me too, man. I am fired up. All right, so talk about recruitment for you. You're in high school. I'm sure I don't have. Nick probably has the list here, but you have an enormous amount of offers as a kid of your caliber. What's the process like, and then more importantly for you, what are you looking at as like your checklist of what's most important to me as a player? Because you're thinking about your future too. You want to go someplace. I'm assuming, is it winning? Is it style? Is it the coach's personality? Teammates? Are you looking at positions? Who's already there? Like, what are the things that are going through your head when you're going through that recruitment process?
Honestly, like, the recruitment process for me, I wasn't into that side of I didn't like getting calls from college coaches. I would look at a call and if I didn't recognize the area code, or if I knew, say it was from, Arkansas or whatever, like, that's probably a college coach calling me. I'm not gonna pick this up. Or if they call me and I do pick up the phone, I'm just sitting there kind of like falling asleep, or like, I just didn't care about that. Who's on the team? What do you see me, doing as a player? Like, it was just, I'm just ready to go hoop somewhere kind of thing. So most of my recruiting, my dad kind of just, he schooled me on everything, like, showing me what I should look for, what types of things I should ask on a visit. And then eventually it became something I paid attention to. But especially starting out, when I transferred, I had more of an idea of what I was looking for in school, things like that.
I mean, maybe that's a good lesson too for top players, because you could get really caught up in it. Coaches are going to call and text and call and text, and it's so much to think about. And for younger kids that are getting recruited at that level, you're so far away from making a decision that it becomes a distraction. Yeah. And maybe that's the way to approach it, where you have somebody you trust who's giving you guidance. You have somebody you trust and if they've been through, it's even better. Yeah. But you're listening to that person and allowing that person to take on that part of it for you, so you could stay focused on what you love to do. I think your personality, it seems like you're very confident, and that it doesn't really matter to you, right? To you, going to college, you're going to a place, as long as you like the school and it's a good school, you're going to a place and you're going to beat whoever's there anyway. That's your mentality, I'm guessing. You're not even thinking twice about it.
I'm not going to sit behind anybody. And it's actually funny. I was because I wanted to get the process so out of the way early, I committed to Pitt as a sophomore in high school.
I remember that.
Which, like, people were like, Pittsburgh? Like, this kid top 20, who's going to Pittsburgh? But I had built a relationship with Jamie Dixon, And then somebody that's like my godfather, Barry Rawson, he was the assistant. His nickname is Slice, like in the basketball world. He was at Kentucky, St. John's, bunch of different schools. So comfortable with him. Him and my father played overseas together. So they had a relationship. I knew I was going to go there, get better. And it was just like, it was also one of those things I knew leaving high school, when I did leave high school, kind of like in the Sacred Heart sense. Like the year before I got the Sacred Heart, the years prior to me getting there, and also my other teammates, Sacred Heart wasn't really that good. It was kind of like one of the laughing stocks of the NVL. So going there, basically kind of flipping the script, was something that I wanted to do, and then I wanted to carry that on in college. So eventually, after Jamie Dixon left Pitt, that's kind of where, once Auburn came in the picture, started recruiting me, that's where the interest, and then also, quiet as kept, I was a huge Tennessee fan when I was young. So naturally, I was a huge Bruce Pearl fan. Like, I used to love when he painted his face, to be in the stands with the football team. I used to love how energetic and amped he was. So it was like, when he got there, it was like, oh, Bruce Pearl's there, pretty good conference. They weren't that good last year. I'm definitely gonna go there and play. So maybe go there and do some things.
At what point is this happening in your high school career? Was this, obviously you say you committed to Pitt as a sophomore, so you've been talking to coaches for a couple of years at that point.
8th grade.
Since 8th grade. Yeah. At what point do, the Pitt thing falls through? At what point is your phone going off the hook? Is this all of junior year, all of senior year? And then what about the decision? Like, at what point did you end up making the decision to commit to Auburn?
So junior year is when I decommit from Pittsburgh, I think right before AAU season. So as soon as, and that's around the time Jamie Dixon leaves, goes to TCU. So as soon as that happens, my phone it's up in the air. It was a lot of calls. So, and then I committed to Auburn right after. It was an unofficial visit in August of my going into my senior year. So this is right after the AAU season in July, right after Super 64, early August is when
So you decommit early before AAU junior year, and you commit right after that, just a few months later. So it was, like you said, you didn't want to spend a lot of time in the process, so you end up committing right away and right to Bruce Pearl.
Yeah. Chuck Person actually came to one of my games. We played against, I want to say this is Lonzo Ball's team, the Big Ballers. So basically the whole Chino Hills teams, LaMelo, Leangelo, Lonzo, all those guys.
Yeko,
and he was at the game. We actually got smoked. Like, it was bad. It was really bad. That was a good high school team. But he came up to me he calls me after the game, and hey, we want to recruit you. I'm with Auburn now. This is my second year here. Bruce Pearl's here. And that's kind of when it started from there. So it was with Auburn, it was a real quick process. Real.
Yeah, and again, another lesson to maybe some higher level recruits, or any recruit who loves the school that is recruiting them, or goes to visit and say, I really like it here.
Yeah.
This could be a good fit, and maybe I could see myself here. And you clearly saw that with Auburn, and decision done right away.
I get there for start the unofficial on Friday, at dinner on Saturday night. Like, I already told my dad, like, on Friday night we get back to the hotel, like, I want to come here, Dad. He's like, all right, tell him tomorrow. So at dinner, and the visit is over on Sunday. I tell him on Saturday night at dinner, and you should have seen Bruce's face. It was like, he wanted to cry almost. Like, it was like, but I knew, like, this is where I want to play. This is where I was comfortable. I had met the guys on the team. It was a pretty young team, so we were going to get to grow and build together, and I think that's exactly what we did.
Side note, I've been to Auburn. It's awesome.
The Plains.
It's amazing.
There's no place like it. There's no place like
Jordan O'Hare Stadium. That place is legit.
Come on now.
Stop it. Do you feel, we're just a few years from NIL starting, right? A player like you now, in today's game, you're $1 million signing.
Millionaire.
You're a millionaire in a college.
By 2 years.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's great for college basketball.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a good. We're moving in the right direction with that. And but you just missed it, man. You would have been. I don't know, Pearl. I'm sure Pearl still could have done. You're Auburn. He still would have got it done.
Oh man.
But it's also refreshing just listening to you too. You really love challenges. Mm-hmm. Sacred Heart was a challenge. Right, that was maybe the harder route, and you were really focused on taking that program, like you said, from an underachieving or not great program to being the best program. And then you're looking at a program like Pitt, kind of the same thing. It's like you really love the underdog story, and you see Auburn had a bad year the last year. I mean, you should be a stockbroker because you love to buy low and then you want to sell high. Like it's refreshing because so many guys are just chasing, what everybody else did.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're the type of player that really kind of seeks his own path and wants to kind of trailblaze wherever he goes and leave a legacy. And that's kind of really refreshing and great.
Yeah.
So talk about now, you're at Auburn, talk about your freshman year, talk about like the college experience, how challenging it was or not challenging it was, at Auburn when you start there.
Ooh. Freshman summer was, you would not have thought I think I was like number 24 in the country. Going into it, you would not have thought I was 24 in the country. It was almost like I had never played basketball before. And I don't know, I couldn't even tell you what it was. It was just kind of, I guess maybe, the new experience, being in college, being that far away from home, going all the way down to Alabama. But something changed in so freshman summer courses start in I had to be there late May, early June type of thing. And by time September, October comes, right before we're starting our preseason, something just clicked in me. And I don't know if it was motivation because the season's getting closer or what, but I kind of just started trending uphill that way. My development got better, and individually and as a team. Freshman year, we kind of struggled. We definitely struggled freshman year. Another freshman year learning experience. We had, I think, 4 freshmen come in that year, and we played. It was freshman point guard, me at the 3, and then we had a freshman big man. So 3 of our starters are freshmen. And so we kind of just learning, growing, struggling, losing games, close games, getting blown out. And sophomore year is when the switch flipped, when we had an international trip to Italy, 10 days, the touring teams, we go play against those pro teams out there, and just that being together, just bonding with each other, just really, freshman year, it was kind of one of those things where you have cliques on the team, and I think everybody kind of knows what I'm talking about when I say that certain guys not really, that guy shoots too much, this, that. So sophomore year was kind of, after having that trip, it was pretty much same group of guys. We kind of just, it was like that. And something just clicked, and then we just ended up winning the SEC championship. That we won the league that year. So,
that's amazing. And it's funny because when you say something, I think it's hard to put your finger on what exactly it is because but it's so important. If you're going to actually win and something special is going to happen, something does have to click, and it doesn't have to be a new group. It could just be time. You guys were freshmen.
Yep.
I don't care how good you are. You're playing the SEC, big body guys. Everybody in that league are you guys. They're all highly recruited players, and it's just, some have more experience, some are stronger, and you've got to learn. And when you're learning and losing, sometimes it gets a little tricky to build that chemistry because you're going head to head. But now you come back the next year, you guys all improve. I'm sure got better, stronger, and then that trip, and you found it.
Yeah.
Right. And who knows what that is? But
I think it's you start seeing guys that the year before they weren't talking to each other as much, but then eventually, we go to Italy. 2 of those guys are rooming together. So now it's for the next, and we're traveling, we went to 4 different cities. And we had the same roommates in every city. So it's now you're with this guy for 10 days that you didn't even talk to for 10 minutes before. Just something's going to change.
And there's no way that you're coaches. And that's where you got to give credit to. That's what coaching, I think, is about. These little subtle things sometimes that you don't really realize when you're a kid, but we've done it too. We go on the road and we try to just pick that perfect combination. Yeah. How does this benefit you? It could be that freaking kid cannot be with that kid because we're going to be in trouble that night. But you're building those things, and you're trying to kind of pair the guys that it would be great if those two come together, and you're going to get something out of it.
And Bruce Pearl, he was really everything was family oriented at Auburn. Even if we didn't want it to be, everything was God and family at Auburn. So shout out to Bruce for that. Yeah, he helped bring us together as well.
I've never met Bruce Pearl, but everything I see of him, like you said, passion, energy. Everything seems very sincere. He's sweating his butt off every game.
Change shirts, change jackets, at halftime type of thing. Oh man.
But it's very cool, and he lets you guys play.
Players coach.
Yeah,
players coach 100%.
Yeah, you could see that. Yeah, it's good.
And he's rolling now. He's still going. He's still cooking. He's got the guys rolling now. Still,
yeah,
it's good. Yeah. So you guys win the league your sophomore year. Obviously you make the change to St. John's. Talk us through that process, and we'll get into the transfer portal and the transfer portal being a little different now than it was for you. But talk about that transfer process. You got the immediate waiver from the NCAA. Just touch on that transfer process from Auburn. Why'd you leave St. John's, and then the initiation from one school to the next?
So going into we were just talking about that international trip going to Italy. A lot of the parents, like our parents, went on the trip with us. So my mom was supposed to come on the trip. My mom, my sister, and like I think a week before we leave, so we're training the whole summer on campus. They're in Connecticut. A week before they're supposed to come down to Atlanta, where my family had like a reunion or something like that. So my mom is she's preparing dishes and stuff. But she has to go into a closet to get a pan, and she's reaching down. When she comes back up, she hits her head and doesn't think much of it over the first couple of days. Eventually, headaches, light bothers, all different to signs of concussions or being concussed, and that's what it was. She eventually just went downhill, like slowly over time, and I was. It got to the point my sophomore year, I was traveling in the season to go home, see her, do different things. Like we just didn't know what was gonna happen. So it was just one of those things. Like I kind of want to go back and be closer to home, just because we didn't know. She's healthy now, back working. It took about she didn't get healthy until I graduated St. John's. So it was definitely a process going through that for sure.
Yeah, and great news obviously that she's doing better now, but. That caused you to look elsewhere and got kind of be closer to home. Yeah. How did you? I'm sure you had talks with parents about it, but how did you let coach at Auburn, Bruce Pearl, know? And then how did he help you with that process? And then how did you begin the process of looking elsewhere?
So because she was supposed to go on the trip with us, when he found out what happened, he had already known from as soon as it happened, and this is in July of 2017. So he had already been kind of hip to what was going on, and then as she started kind of getting worse and the season is going on, he was the one that's like, yo, you should go home. Like, we got practice these days, I'll give us these off days, we got a game this day. So he kind of just scheduled everything for me, and that's why I love Bruce so much. Like, he player's coach. That's a guy that he cares about family. Like, he's not just a coach that's going to talk to, he's going to come sit in your living room and tell you everything you want to hear, and then when you get to campus, it's a totally different guy. It's the same guy that sits in your living room, it's the same guy that's going to coach you. He'll yell at you a little more to, motivate her, but it's the same exact guy for sure.
And so you make the flip to St. John's. Why St. John's?
It was the highest major school I could go to within 100-mile radius of my house. Mm-hmm. I looked at Providence, and then I looked at St. John's, and Providence was like 10 miles outside the radius. So I kind of knew it might be hard to get the hardship waiver, but it was
ended up working out.
Yeah, ended up working out.
Obviously a lot of the things in college nowadays have to deal with the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. When guys are transferring, whether it's for NIL, the immediate playing time or the chance to maybe transfer down a little bit or transfer higher a little bit. Give us your thoughts on how the transfer portal, you think the transfer portal works nowadays, and is it good for the game? Is it bad for the game? Is it good for players? Yeah. Is it good for coaches? Does it work for everybody? Just your thoughts on the transfer portal.
I think there's good and bad. You can be in a situation, for the kids that are in situations that just don't work for them, then being able to, get out and get to a new situation, a better situation, more development, things like that. But then there's also that fine line of the kids that just, they hate when they run into a wall. They hate adversity. So there's certain kids that, okay, the first time coach yells at me, I'm thinking about transferring. There's a lot of kids nowadays with that mentality. So I think it's give and take with, being able to transfer so easily.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, coming from your perspective, someone who's dealt with adversity their whole life, but being a top recruit in the country since you were in 8th grade, essentially, dealing with that adversity, but showing the prowess to push through it and to fight through the tough times and to go to a situation like Sacred Heart, turn it around, win 3 straight championships, and then go to a program like Auburn, flip it around, win the league your sophomore year, which is awesome. So, I agree. Talk about your first year, which would be your junior year at St. John's, and then eventually your senior year at St. John's. Talk about that.
Junior year, felt like another freshman year. Talented team, just couldn't quite get consistent, get the consistency in the wins and things like that. But we had 9 pros on that team, all 9. 2 of them touched the NBA, and everybody else currently plays overseas in some type of country. We got guys playing Europe Cup, all different types of in all different types of leagues. So it was definitely a talented team, just that we just couldn't get that just chemistry. And then it was St. John's was also like transfer U. We had maybe 7 or 8 transfers like that year coming in, and then guys that were there the year before, they had just came in as transfers. So everybody was real new. We were older but real new, so it was just kind of hard to get that camaraderie. And then my senior year, I broke my ankle actually right before senior year. I played half the year on a broken ankle, but I broke it playing for Team USA. So my senior year wasn't really. I was kind of in and out most of the year, so I didn't really feel like I had that much kind of, I guess, to do with the team, quote unquote. But yeah.
And from there, you set your sights on professional basketball, and it's something, again, player your caliber. Not everybody has those types of goals or realistically has those types of goals. What are you doing to prepare? Like, what are your aspirations? You say you had a senior year, you were injured, so I'm sure that doesn't help.
Yeah.
Right, that's not the best. That was terrible timing.
For sure.
All right, so now you've got to get yourself ready. Did you go to the pre-draft, NBA stuff? Like, talk about that whole experience, and then we'll get we'll quickly touch on your European career, which I think is fascinating. And I don't think people realize, one, how competitive it is in Europe. Like, everybody says, I'll go there and then I'll play in Europe someday. And they just throw it out there.
Yeah,
dude,
I play overseas.
Like I'm gonna play overseas. You think it's that easy to do? Like, it's so hard to do, and it's so hard to do it at a great level. And the levels, like you said, like EuroLeague, is amazing, right? To try to get to that level, it's like the NBA. There's no question about it.
Sometimes the basketball is better than the NBA. To me, the basketball is better.
I don't disagree. And now we see guys are taking stuff from their playbooks, especially the Lithuanian teams and everything else. So. But talk about that process. You're trying to turn pro, and then walk us through, kind of how you got into your current situation where your pro career, which has been outstanding so far.
So leaving St. John's my senior year, it's 2020, and the world shut down in 2020. So I broke my ankle 2019 of August. I play from the preseason, so I ended up playing maybe from late November or early December when college starts or gets to the thick of it, and then I stopped playing in maybe February. And that's when I ended up getting surgery. So for Big East tournament, when we were supposed to go to the NCAA tournament, but we actually were the last game to be played. They stopped our game at halftime. In the second round of the Big East tournament, they had canceled every other game that day. But so once the world shut down, it was pretty much I'm still in the boot. I was on YouTube looking up, how to rehab, how to do certain things, because I knew I probably wasn't going to get workouts, and I also didn't know if teams were going to fly guys out for workouts, this and that. So it was just one of those things. I want to make sure I get as healthy as possible, and then I'll worry about the basketball after. So I didn't actually get back on the court until maybe July, August of 2020. So I kind of fell behind the 8 ball, and then the world is still shut down at this point, and I just wasn't getting the calls to go overseas once it started. Certain countries had restrictions, all different things like that. So it was kind of that's around the time I met Drew as well, Drew Roberts, and we were just training together, just kind of waiting for a call type of thing. And then I knew I was going to take advantage of the opportunity when it came.
That's a tough break. You talk about persevering. You could have easily packed it in.
Yeah.
Broken ankle, senior year, you're in a boot, you're trying to get back, probably thinking NBA camp, and then COVID hits, which affects so many people in so many horrible ways. And we're talking about it as it relates to sports. So it's not like we're being insensitive to what was really going on, the devastation. But for us, like the high school coach, we were the number 2 seed in the state tournament, trying to win our first state championship.
Exactly.
And I remember I had seniors crying in my office.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went crazy on Twitter, and I shouldn't have, but because that wasn't a raw emotion to see these guys not being able to compete.
Yep.
But here you are, ready to take that next step. And we started this story in this podcast at 2 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and you're at the point to try to realize your goal, and now you can't do it. Yeah. And so now you got to stay in the gym. You met with Drew Roberts, who we had on here. You're starting to work out. You're just staying with it. You could have quit, but you didn't.
I was actually, during that time, I needed a job. So I was working in a liquor store. It was I was considered an essential worker. So I always had work throughout COVID, but
liquor stores were essential jobs during COVID.
Certainly were.
And I was a very popular cashier.
Yeah. The medical workers.
Come buy your booze with Mustapha Heron.
The first responders.
Like, hey, aren't you that kid? Yeah, that's me.
And the liquor store workers. But you're right. Yeah.
It was I needed a job throughout COVID, so I worked in the liquor store, and then I stayed in the gym. Those thoughts, it's so easy for those thoughts to creep in your head. Even as much as I love basketball, in my mind, I'm like, maybe I should just try to start getting into coaching or this. But then it's like, nah, don't let those thoughts creep in. And it was pretty much it was a personal battle every day. Sometimes like getting up, going to the gym. It's like, I want to go to the gym. I want to work out, but it's like, what is the end result from this? Am I going to get a job? Am I going to get to start my career? Is this going to happen? It was a lot of just blind,
we didn't know if you were
trust.
going to play basketball.
Exactly.
Where were you going to play? And then it was opening up slowly in different places so that everything became harder to get because there's less opportunities.
Exactly.
If one little place opens up, everybody wants to go there. So now you have this like incredible demand. It must have been very challenging. So
Very,
talk
very
about like your first opportunity.
So first opportunity is actually, this is crazy. My first gig was in England. I played for Leicester Riders, but I get a call from one of my old trainers. His name is Michael Sanders. He's from Waterbury. He went to Sacred Heart. He helped me a lot with my growth and development throughout high school. And he calls me and says that one of his friends is coaching in England. So his name is Rob Paternostro. Rob Paternostro is from Waterbury. He went to Holy Cross, so it's somebody that I didn't know at the time, but somebody who knew of me, kind of heard about me, knew my story. And they had a kid on the team that had suffered the same exact ankle injury that I just had. So he called, and I was healthy at this point. I'm back working out. So he calls my trainer, finds out what I'm doing. I'm in the gym, I'm doing this. Tell him come finish the season with us. We got about 12 games left. We're pretty good. This will help him get a start to his career. I jumped up. So the next thing smoking, I'm out of here. So that was we end up winning the league. I met some great guys. Rob's a great coach. Like he's like a story type of coach out there in England. Like a lot of championships. Just guys love playing for him. Real players coach. So that he helped me get the start to my career that I felt like I needed.
And how many years now? I mean, Nick, you want to read off everywhere that was stopped?
I'm not sure I have all of them. Great Britain, Hungary, Iceland, Qatar.
Yep.
New Zealand.
Yep.
Uruguay.
Yep.
I missed one.
And Mexico.
And then obviously in the G League with Rio Grande Valley Vipers. The length of your career, you've been in the professional basketball world since 2020.
Yep.
So end of 2020, 2021.
2021, yep.
So we're just about 4 years. Where are you currently with your career and what's the future look like?
I just finished playing in Mexico about 3 weeks ago. And now I think I want to make a change and go back to like the European market. So I've been looking over there, just waiting for teams to make adjustments, make changes, and hopefully I'll be one of those guys that gets a call.
And quickly, what's that process look like? Do you have an agent?
Yes.
Do you have somebody that does all that for you?
Yes, I have an agent. We've been together for about 2 years now, and he pretty much just kind of goes through calling teams, figuring out what teams need, or teams will call him, hey, we need this right here, or I have this kid right here that he did this and this, he played in these countries, this is what he's good at, the whole nine, trying to sell you basically. So I have somebody that does that for me, and then we connect, and then we go from there.
I mean, it's different. In the European game, Greg Mangano, former player at Notre Dame, probably was the person who gave me the most insight. Typical American, right? I don't know anything. I know that the NBA starts in the fall, ends next, in the summer, and everybody that has these long contracts, that's just the typical way it is. But the European game, there's so many leagues. People don't realize, number one, there's so many leagues. Every country has their own NBA, some better than others. And then they have different times of the year that they play. So as a professional basketball player is playing overseas, you want to continue to have great seasons, but there's no guarantee you're going back to that team or that country. And now it's a lot more unknowns, but it's also a great opportunity. You're traveling all over the world. Greg's resume is very similar. He went everywhere. He played in Dubai. I remember, Nick, this was nuts. He played in Dubai for 1 month, and it was a men's league, and it was run, there was like 10 teams. He probably told Drew about this too. There were 10 teams, and they all had like one rich guy on each team. It was a pickup league. Yeah. They gave him like $30,000 just to go for a month to play. And it was like, can you imagine like that scene? Imagine that scene, right? Like you got like all these guys who are really good at basketball, and this one dude out there like, yo, pass me the ball. They're like, yeah, give him like 5 shots a game, man. That guy's paying us $40,000. But but it's a great experience, right? I mean, you're traveling the world, but it must be stressful at the same time because you don't know where you're going. It's not as consistent.
It's definitely not as consistent. I mean, at this point, I think of myself as a nomad, and I've always been one of I went away from home the first time at 14 years old, so I've always been somebody. And now it's funny when I look back at it, I kind of had those experiences being away from home, even though I wasn't quite ready at the time. It shaped me and it molded me and it helped me with just knowing how to live on my own today, how to take care of things. Just a lot. You'd be surprised. A lot of guys, they're kind of like green and oblivious to just everything that they don't know how to operate when they're overseas or even sometimes in America. So I think that those experiences definitely shaped me.
Plus, you mentioned AAU. I know we had to wrap up here in a second, but you mentioned AAU. You played on how many teams?
A whole bunch of teams, and my parents didn't travel a lot with me when I was young. They were working all the time, so I was going to Vegas by myself, 13 years old. I'm going to Florida, California, this place all by myself. Some of my college visits I had to go by myself. Just like I went to Marquette literally got on a plane. My dad dropped me off at the airport. He had to work the whole weekend, so I went out there and I got to see for myself. Got to kind of use my own discernment. So
that's great. And the last thing I'll ask you on this, on European game, the other challenge, I think we forget about this. There's language barriers. There's culture barriers.
Yes.
We went out and we took the team to Poland this past summer, and it was so funny that they're feeding us, and I like the food.
Yeah.
But dude, like our hotel was a revolving door of Uber Eats. They found Subway, McDonald's,
your
Taco
chicken tenders
Bell,
and French fries, guys,
and they're just like rolling in. But it's you got to go to a place. You got to get used to the time zone, the culture. You got to get used to the language. You got to be coached. And I'm sure coaches, they're going to be patient with you, but at the same time, they want to get stuff done, right? Yeah. So talk about that part of it.
When I'm in Rome, I do as the Romans do. As much as possible, whatever I'm comfortable with, whatever that may be, I just try to immerse myself in the culture as much as possible. That makes it so much easier, and then people are more willing to work with you that way. There's a stigma about Americans sometimes when we go overseas is that we expect America everywhere, and that's something that my dad from when I was young would always tell me, I had to learn I can't expect America everywhere. So that it just resonates with me now. It's like, and now I love being in different cultures. I want to see something as far away from American culture as possible, just because it's just so different. So being in places like Qatar, it's super different. I visited Saudi Arabia before, so it's like just certain things just that you can do in America you can't do out there, and you just have to be on your P's and your Q's all the time, and just kind of just like I said, when you're in Rome, just do as the Romans do. Kind of keep it cool, and you'll be fine.
Great advice.
That's fascinating, man. As we wrap up here. I'll ask one last question here for, I guess, the younger athletes or the younger basketball players, younger hoopers who may have that love and obsession that we talked about. What advice are you giving them in today's culture, in today's climate, in today's day and age? What would you say to them?
First and foremost, stay in the gym. You always control what you can control, and what you can control first and foremost is your personal development. So stay in the gym, and then stay around your coaches. Don't listen to your friend. Like when your friends are saying, oh, you're better than that guy. I don't know why coach is this and that. Like don't listen to your friends. Just keep an even keel mind and stay in the gym. It's probably the best advice I can give you.
And I've watched you in the gym. It's impressive, man.
Appreciate it.
The way you go at it, the work ethic, the speed you go with is. I could sit there and probably watch for at least a few hours. So continue on your path, man. We're certainly rooting for you. We'll be watching you overseas, but anytime you're home, we're happy to have you in this seat with us. So
sure.
we appreciate you coming on, man. It's been great.
Thank you. No,
Thank you. Yeah, this was great, man.
Yeah, this is Locked In, your source for everything basketball. Mustapha Heron. Follow him on social media. Follow us on social media. Locked In _basketball. YouTube channel, podcast, anywhere you find your podcast. We appreciate you listening. Stop. Thank you.
Thank you.